Hello, everybody. My name is Michelle. Thank you so much for joining and hopping on here. I'm going to go ahead and start this presentation. I appreciate you hopping on for AIME's Processing Committee clarity on communication with your loan officer and your processors. All right. So first of all, my name is Michelle. I have been in the industry since 2002. I started as a receptionist and got moved back into collections. As you can see here on my timeline, I kind of moved from processing into processing manager. In another life, I was also a sales manager. I was helping brokers connect with processors to streamline their process. In 2023, I was the director of operations for a third-party processing company, and I am currently one of the partner success leads for another third-party processing company. In 2024, Mortgage Professionals of America, Elite Women in Mortgage. So I have really been around, and I've seen the ups and I've seen the downs on what is our industry. And I'm really here to try and help streamline some of that communication because I have had the opportunity and the privilege to play in a lot of different roles. As I put there on 2013, I did get my loan officer license. I did do quite a bit of origination, especially back in 2021, 2022, when rates were really great. I was in there and I was doing it just along the side with you loan officers, but I was also processing as well. So I feel like I have a lot of information that I can share with you on how to best communicate between both sides of the coin. So why we're here really is we have the same goal. It's to get our loans closed and to get them closed on time. And one thing I've learned is that sometimes we feel like we're on different teams. It feels like it's processors versus loan officers or versus brokerages. And I really want to break down where that disconnect comes from. And more importantly, how we can close that gap between the two groups, between us. So I want to start first with the elephant in the room, the assumptions that we make about each other. We have our loan officers sometimes, and again, obviously these are generalizations. These are all information that I've gotten from conversations I've had with brokers, conversations I've had with processors, personal feelings I've had myself. So first of all, what LOs think. Sometimes LOs think processors are lazy and that they don't care. They think that no updates means nothing's happening on it. And with processors, we sometimes think loan officers have it really easy. We feel like loan officers kind of half bake files, throw them in there, and they make all the money and they expect all the magic. These are not truth. These are all reactions to the pressures that we feel in this industry. And clearing up these assumptions is the first step towards better collaboration. So where things break down. So in my experience, the breakdown happens in two big ways. First of all, loan officers sometimes fail to clearly communicate what's going on with the file and what is important on it. They've had a lot of conversations with their clients. They understand the uniqueness, the niches, the little pieces on it. And while that's great for you to help structure the file when you hand it off over to your processor, those are really big, important pieces that we need to know and we need to have in order to process the file as quickly and as cleanly as possible. On the flip side, processors sometimes fail to update the LOS systems. They fail to update giving regular updates or notes on it. And so the silence equals frustration, and most issues are due to assumptions of knowledge or lack of follow-up on it. So, for example, I had a situation just a little while ago. We had a file that looked like it was clear to close, but Wednesday, as underwriters do, they pop on a missing VOE on it. The processor had made a note in their LOS system, but didn't follow up with it or escalate with it. And the LO thought, because they hadn't heard anything, that everything was going fine, that they, file was moving along just the way it was supposed to be. Excuse me. But at 5:30, we were scrambling. We were looking for getting the VOE done on it. And so what happened was they hopped on a Slack call, or not Slack. I used to use Slack. They hopped on a Teams call and they picked up the phone and they called each other and they called the VOE, or they called the employer, and they got that VOE in. And it's not luck. that they got those things done and got them done in time. It was more about the relationship, that the processor felt comfortable to call the loan officer. The loan officer understood, we needed the urgency on it and really hopped in to help on it. That's a relationship that was already working before the crisis hit. So we have systems and we have communication, but it's not unless we execute upon those things that we're really going to be seeing some benefits in how we're going to move forward on communicating with each other. So, a couple of habits that I like to bring up for keeping you in sync is to have weekly wrap up or Monday check ins. So, when you first call your loan officer, and I'm speaking to you processors, and you're building this relationship with them, you're going to call and you're going to set these expectations with them. I don't think you need to do an everyday meeting. You don't need to talk about, the life history of the loan every single time. It's more of a bullet point time for you to go over and say, hey, X, Y, and Z, this is what we're looking at. This is what we need. This is what our goal is. I do a Monday morning check-in with one of my loan officers and our teams every Monday, and I really like it because it sets us up for success and expectations for the rest of the week. And at the end of the week too, I like to, and I'm trying to get better at it. It is a learning thing for me, but I like to send out Friday updates. Hey, we started here on Monday. This is where we're ending on Friday. We are looking for this over the weekend, if we're looking for inspections to come back on the property or whatnot. That way the loan officer knows and can communicate with agents where they're at going into the weekend. Also, a really great habit is, and I only put LOs, but I'm going to put processors in this as well. Read the notes before you email or before you call. Read those notes in your LOS system or whatever system you have set up with each other, because that way you're not looking like a fool when you're calling and saying, hey, I need this W-2. And in the notes, it said there's no W-2s because they are contract or whatever it might be. You really want to be reading the notes in there. Loan officers and processors put those in there, not just for funsies. They put it in there to have great communication. And then calls early in the relationship really help retone expectations and energy. So when you first get introduced to a new loan officer, processors, and loan officers for processors, when you first get introduced, I suggest you hop on a call and you talk. You find out about each other. You get to know each other. You get to feed that energy. I'm going to be real. Sometimes partnerships just don't work. As much as processors and loan officers try to work together, sometimes you just hit a roadblock where it's not going to work. And if you have those conversations up front early on, you're going to be able to sense whether or not you think this might be a working relationship. So, tips for LOs. This is something that I want really to stress for loan officers when giving files over to processors. This is something that I have experienced. I have heard feedback from other processors on it. And these are really the top 3 pain points that I think processors want to reiterate to our loan officers. Number 1, do the work up front. Please don't toss a puzzle at your processor. Their time is very valuable, as is yours, but their time is really hard if they are going in, reading the documents, reading the notes, nothing's quite making sense. You're missing all of this information. Your 1003 only has, 6 months of employment history on it. Unless we're doing LOA work for you, really your file should be buttoned up pretty tight when you hand it over to your loan officer or to your processors. Also allow for realistic response times. Everybody wants it and they want it now, processors included when we ask for things. But if they're working on a file, say it's your file, and another loan officer pops in and says, hey, I need this on this file, you would really want them to finish up and wrap up what they're working on at the time, right? I would assume, rather than just moving on to the next thing. And so I would like for everybody to take that mentality when they're asking their processors for updates on items to know that, hey, they might have something open on their desk. On the flip side of that, there shouldn't be a long response. For me personally, I like to respond within 30 minutes if I can, even sooner if it's something that's going to take a little bit longer. If I get an email and they're asking for an update on it, I can say, hey, I'm finishing something up on my desk. Give me, 30 minutes. I like to set that expectation for my loan officers to know where I'm at. But please don't think that they're going to be able to respond within minutes on every single text, call, or email. And then the last one, not everything is a rush. When everything's a rush, nothing's a rush. I would use that term and that phrase and that push as infrequently as possible. I think the idea that everything is a rush, obviously, everything is time sensitive in this industry. We've got close of escrow dates. We've got, people going on vacation. They have to move out. They're sitting on the curb. They have a U-Haul. They're living in a hotel. All of that, I've heard all of those reasons why things are rushes. But just be mindful of using that term with your processor so that when it is really a rush, they know that you mean it and they're really going to dive in and get it done for you. And the last little bit of that part too is to respect boundaries. Processors are very much yes people. We really like to solve problems. We like to work. Most of us work from home. And so it's easy for us to sit on our couch and just be working, but don't take advantage of that. Just be mindful that they're human. They have families, they have, lives as well. So those are my 3 tips for loan officers for having better communication with their processors. Now, on the flip side, processors, learn your loan officer's world. Call them. Learn how they bring in business. Do they have niches? Do they work with veterans? Are they a one-time close? Where are their specialties so that you can, if you're going to be building this relationship with them, really dig in and figure out, learn the guidelines, learn the lenders, talk to the account executives, find out, because it is a partnership. And then also who they are as people. I have some loan officers I love, and I have them as friends on social media. I get to see their kids, their pets. And I think knowing each other as people will give you a lot more reserve for when you maybe miss something, because we are all human and we may miss something. But if they know who you are and you know who they are, they're going to go, okay, that's definitely not like Michelle. That's not like something with her. I bet maybe there was something going on with her kid or whatever it might be. So get to know them. It's really, really important. The next one is to leave clear, frequent notes in your LOS and updates. If you don't use an LOS, it could be anything that you guys are utilizing: Teams, Slack, OneDrive, an Excel spreadsheet, Google Docs, whatever it might be. Make sure that you're leaving those notes and you're communicating with your loan officer. They can't read your mind. And even if they have 100% trust in you, they're not going to necessarily have 101% trust, because that file is not only just a paycheck. Obviously, it's a paycheck for everybody. It's a relationship. It is their business. It is their reputation. It is all of those pieces. And if you take those into your consideration when you're processing their loans, you will want to give the notes so that they do feel informed and educated on where their files are at. So if their agents or their clients call them, they know what's going on with it. And the last one, pick up the phone. Some conversations are not for email or for text. I can't tell you how many times I'll get a text from one of my loan officers and I'm just like, time out. I'm going to call you, because this is way easier to have this conversation so that we can both be on the same page and get things done a lot quicker. I always say that if you're not picking up the phone and utilizing that, you're doing your job at half speed. And really, we're all focused on speed here. So those are my tips for processors. The tool trap. This is something else I find that processors tend to have a lot of issues with as well. More tools does not necessarily mean better education or better communication. Too many systems can equal too much chaos. So it's really important for you to have really one primary place for notes, one time for a quick chat, Teams, text, or shoot an email for official stuff. It's really hard for a processor to jump into this portal. I have to leave notes here. I have to leave notes here. I have to give you a call. I have to email over here. It's too much for a processor to have to utilize all of those pieces of it. I really think it's important to have something streamlined. So don't let the tools become a distraction. They should support your work, not slow it down. The next step is leadership. What is the role of leadership in the communication between the processors and through the loan officers? Leadership has a huge part to play in this part of it. First, they really need to be encouraging the teams to be honest and bring up friction early. If you're feeling like something's not going right, and this goes to both loan officers and processors, pick up the phone. If you've already built that relationship with each other previously, you talked, you know about each other's lives, you know business, you've done a file before, it really shouldn't be hard for you to pick up the phone and say, hey, you know what? I haven't heard from you as much. I'm not seeing as many files come in, or hey, processor, I don't feel like I'm getting the communication we had to set up. Maybe we can adjust, maybe we can, refocus and streamline it back in. We really need leadership to encourage processors to have that voice and have the courage to call their loan officers and say that. But also, when things escalate, leadership should step in. They don't necessarily take sides, but they're a fresh set of eyes that can bring some clarity and calm the chaos. Maybe you guys have all been looking at a bank statement too much, and you're just like, no, this should be this way, it should be this way. A third party can step in and go, okay, hold on, let me see, and bring out all the pieces and go, you know what, actually, did you see this piece over here? We might be able to utilize that. And it's like, oh, okay. So, really, leadership should be a big part of the communication piece when it gets to that point. Sometimes a neutral perspective is all that's needed in order to bring things back on track. Also, leadership, if loan officers or processors, if you're just finding that this relationship is just not working, you've communicated, you've tried to set expectations, and there's just something about it that's not working, definitely speak up. Whether you're utilizing in-house processing, a contract processor, or third-party processing, there are other options for you, and leadership can help you without having to switch up and change your whole process, your whole business flow. So it's really important that you know who the leadership teams are for each system that you guys are using. So, oops. So the takeaways on here is, at the end of the day, the gap isn't about effort. It's really about visibility and trust. It's really about having that communication and setting those expectations up front. It doesn't happen by accident. You don't just fall into a fantastic relationship, whether it be at work, in your personal life, or, any other place. It's something that you guys are building to get to a goal at the end of the day. And stop assuming. You know what they say when you assume. I'm not going to say it, but you know what they say. But start asking. Pick up the phone and ask. It's okay. We are human. We all make mistakes. It's the issue is when we don't learn from those mistakes. But hopefully, everybody on this call, when you make a mistake, you learn from it and you don't do it again. But stop assuming and start asking and talking to each other. Final thought. When we stop assuming and start connecting, we close more than loans, we build partnerships. So I hope that helps everybody, kind of figure out a best practice to start their communication, how to streamline it, and how to, build a great partnership, because really that's what it is at the end of the day. We are partners in this industry. We all want to help our clients, our relationships with our agents, with everybody out there. And,